Hello Internet, and welcome to a follow-up video for a video I made several months back. I'm Yoda Bauer on Port Haven, your Star Wars Refuge, and I'm here today with my partner in crime.
Professor Django.
And we're going to discuss two books, Rebel Rising and Guardians of the Whills. We've both read them, we both enjoyed them, and now we want to give you our impression.
All right, I guess we'll start off with Rebel Rising. So Rebel Rising is basically the how-to novel for Jyn Erso. It tells you the story of Jyn Erso, basically from the point where we leave Jyn Erso at the end of Catalyst, if you read Catalyst, a Rogue One novel, all the way up to Rogue One. So it fills in basically that whole time span in between there. We start off with Jyn as a child who's been left, and Saw comes and finds her, and we end up with Jyn in the prison where the rebels find her in Rogue One. So it's a story of Jyn growing up with Saw, Jyn working with Saw, and then Jyn's life after Saw, leading up to Rogue One.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed this novel. I liked Jyn in Rogue One. She wasn't the character I gravitated to the most. I would say that was more Chirrut, but I liked her. But what Rebel Rising did was it gave this backstory of why she's the character that she is, why she can seem abrasive, why she can seem closed off, and it really made me feel for her. And now going forward and watching Rogue One again, you know, her story, and I think it's okay to say at this point, her ultimate death and how she died and the end of her story is so much more meaningful when you know her whole journey. And her childhood flashback in Rogue One, you don't see a whole lot of that. And if you have read Catalyst, she's in Catalyst, but she's just a little kid and she's not really involved with the story. So this really is the bulk of her journey and what she goes through. Now, the other novel that we read is this book. I actually have this one here because while Django talks about it, I'm going to occasionally show you snippets of it. It is a story about Chirrut and Baze and their life on Jedha. And effectively what's happened is the Empire has moved into Jedha, taken over all of these temples from a wide array of religious beliefs, many of whom center around kyber crystals because the Empire wanted kyber crystals. And Chirrut and Baze have to navigate how to take care of the city like they've always done. Saw Gerrera shows up, and he arrives on Jedha to fight the Empire and gets kind of caught up with Chirrut and Baze. And from there, the story goes.
One of the things that I thought was most interesting about Guardians of the Whills is that this book, unlike a lot of the other books, so a book like Rebel Rising, or even books like Tarkin and Thrawn, Guardians of the Whills is not an origin story for Baze and Chirrut. It is basically what happens in the months leading up to the events of Rogue One. So we see Baze and Chirrut working there in Jedha City, their kind of run in, and then ultimate sort of dealings with Saw. I don't want to be too spoilery about it. But we get that interaction, but it's not sort of an origin story for the characters as much as it is context for where they are in their lives when we get to Rogue One. Another thing I really liked about Guardian of the Whills, this is actually probably one of my favorite new canon novels, even though it's really short and is meant to be kind of a junior novel. I really liked, like Yoda Bauer said, that we get this kind of broader picture of, like, I don't want to say Force cults, but like these religious orders that exist around the notion of the Force, but that aren't Force users. We get a little glimpse of that in The Force Awakens at the beginning. We get glimpses of that in the Aftermath trilogy, but we get a lot of that here because that's what Baze and Chirrut are. They are guardians of this particular temple that exists in Jedha City, which is just one of many different temples. And so the book almost presents Jeddah City as a Jerusalem of sorts, because it is the sort of home for pilgrims for a lot of different religious orders. And I like that we get that kind of broader world building kind of context for it. Also, in Guardians of the Whills, as Yodabauer is showing you some of these things, the book itself is interspersed not just with pictures, because it is a children's book. So we get a lot of the illustrations, which I enjoyed, of the stuff going on. Poetry, which is written in universe as sort of a collection of poetry about the Force by these religious orders. And it's sort of interspersed in between chapters. And that, in and of itself, I think, is reason enough to read and own this book, is just the artwork, the style of the book, and this poetry that's interspersed.
So that is our summary of these two books, where you can get to know more of the characters that were in Rogue One. Obviously, the stars of the books were Jen, Baze, and Chirrut. You also get to know a lot about Saw. He's a main character in both of those novels, even though he's not listed by name in either of them.
So hopefully you've read these books, or if not, our video has inspired you to read them. But if you'd like to continue our conversation, or tell us where we were wrong, or talk about these secondary characters, of which there are many, or go point by point plot reviews with us, feel free to join us. Check us out at forums.porthaven.com, and you can find us there to keep the conversation going. That link will be in the description below.
All right, and until next time, keep it real and fly casual.